This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, I'm here with Rami Ghandour and Reem from Metito. Rami, thank you for your time. I know this was a suddenly organised call because I wanted to pick your brains over some of the things that you and your organisation have been doing and the context of that for the catastrophic situation that's appeared in Beirut. For people who don't know you and Metito, can you just give me a quick introduction?
I will do, Piers, but just before I do that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for reaching out in this very tough and horrific situation that the country is going through, and your efforts and the fact that of everyone who's listening into this webinar, just by listening and being aware is a step, and it's something that is highly appreciated. Lebanon is a country that is fantastic in so many respects, but also an example of a failed state, and we've seen that happen in the most horrific manner exactly a week ago. So definitely appreciate the fact that there's something that we'd like to be done there, and the question is how and to go about that to make sure it happens in the right way. Just to answer your first question, so I diverted a little bit. So,
you did. I was going to come back to you. I wasn't going to let you get away with it.
So Rami Ghandour, I run Metito Utilities. I am Lebanese origin. I was born in Beirut, and Metito was founded in 1958 in Beirut. In '76, when the civil war started, my family and I left. I was a baby at the time, and I grew up in London, and now I'm in Dubai. Metito is a desalination water wastewater company, and most recently we've also expanded into the renewable sector, working across emerging markets. As I mentioned, our origin is from Lebanon, but since we left in '76, we have not been doing business in Lebanon. We've been working across the Middle East, Africa, and Asia as a whole. Metito Utilities is a developer, investor, owner, operator of assets, of concessions, BOTs, etc. in our sector.
Excellent. And so you've obviously got a heart and family still left in Lebanon, I assume. Do you still have family in Beirut?
Yes, I do. And not immediate family, since my father passed away just over a year ago. He was there in the last years of his life. But other than that, I have a bunch of uncles, cousins, and other relatives there. Fortunately, everybody is safe and sound.
Good to hear.
Everybody who has apartments in Beirut is dealing with the broken glass. It is everywhere. Places that are not close to the blast site have still been severely damaged. So that, unfortunately, is there. But touch wood, nobody has been injured. But we all know a lot of people that have. So it is an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, my understanding is that the water authority that serves Lebanon is, I think they're called the Administration for Beirut and the Mountains of Lebanon. Something like that. Yeah, and Mount Lebanon, that's it. And that, I assume, is a branch of the government. Is that your understanding as well?
I believe so, yeah.
And I get the impression that there's lots of clean water available because it comes down from the mountains, and it's probably the wastewater side that has the toughest problem that they're dealing with.
The water situation in the country, unfortunately, is horrible. Lebanon, by Middle Eastern standards, should be relatively water rich, and we have, as you mentioned, rivers and lakes in the country. But unfortunately, the water supply making it to the population is very poor, very intermittent. So even the clean water supply is very limited. And I'm talking before the last week's events and before coronavirus. So the situation is only getting worse. Compounded by the fact that the electricity has its issues. So pumps only work for very few hours a day, if at all. And the latest in our house in the mountains was that we got power between 1 and 3 a.m. only, and no water. So heavy reliance across the country on wells, which is not sustainable because there's heavy seawater infiltration. So the clean water is in dire condition. And then you mentioned wastewater. I think wastewater treatment is unheard of. We have what should be one of the most beautiful, pristine coastlines in the world on the Eastern Mediterranean. Unfortunately, it is a complete dump yard, and you can smell it out in the sea. So what should be really an example for the region, an area which has natural beauty, which has an educated population that should be able to appreciate environmental impact. Unfortunately, as a result of mismanagement over many years, compounded under different administrations, is a horrible situation for the country to be in.
Thank you for that insight. That's incredibly good. And just before we talk about what might happen next, can we just talk about how beautiful Lebanon is and how I've got this worry that there's going to be lots of people who are homeless, and that the winters in Lebanon are pretty cold, my understanding, and that we've got in a few months' time there's going to be a lot of people who are in a beautiful country but with a crumbling infrastructure and some pretty harsh weather. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, the very cold is typically in the mountains. Beirut itself, where the bulk of the blast damage is, the winter will be wet, shall we say. It's a Mediterranean climate. It's not necessarily going to be freezing. It hardly ever, if at all, snows in Beirut. But nevertheless, it is a country where the infrastructure is not there. As you say, there's a lot of homeless people. We have also the highest refugee population in the world by percentage, as a result of originally Palestinian refugees and over the last decade, Syrian refugees. So the infrastructure to cope with both the refugee population and the Lebanese population itself is just not capable to cope with. So people are facing a very tough situation, compounded by the collapse of the economy. So the Lebanese lira was pegged at 1,500 to the dollar for the last 2 decades. Right now on the black market, it's hovering around the 10,000 mark and likely to get worse. So you've had a 85% devaluation of the local currency, and even those people who have dollars in country are not able to get the dollars out. So it is I don't know what to say, to be honest, Piers.
No, I get. All right. So as you know, over the last 48 hours, we've both been making calls to people we know to try and get a sense of what help could be provided. I'm exploring the idea of creating a water crisis response register, for want of a better word. It's basically a register of people and organizations who might have a capability and motivation to try and help on this crisis and on potentially ones in the future. I'd love to get your sense as to whether that's a good idea or a bad idea, what the pros and cons might be, and how that might align to some of the things you've done in the past in Lebanon. I know that you had some other projects in Beirut which were philanthropic and trying to get the right services to the right people. Can you just talk me through that?
Definitely. I think to answer your first question of whether it's a good idea to have a crisis response group, I think that's a fantastic plan, and I commend you on coming up with that. I can't think of another organization which has the reach that your group does, the effectiveness and speed that you can get to leaders in our sector. So I believe you have over 500 members of the group. of the action platform, and I think that's a fantastic resource to use for action in the water sector. So whether it is in this particular situation in Beirut or anywhere else in the world that's facing a crisis, I can't think of a better way to mobilize resources and to exchange thoughts and ideas on how to improve things. Specifically, coming to what can be done in Lebanon right now, from my side, I don't have the reach to the specific government entities that can do things on a large scale for the municipal environment, and I would be very careful in doing so under the current circumstances. But
for what it's worth, I have got their phone number and I have rung them 3 times this morning, but the phone just rings out. So I'm like you say, I'm sure they've got better things to do. Sorry, I cut into you.
Not at all. I won't comment on that. I think the Lebanese people have been resilient as a people. They're forced to sort of fend for themselves. And so what has been happening across other sectors is crowdfunding initiatives and going through recognized entities such as UNICEF, UNRWA, Red Cross, etc. And equally as well, I think there's an opportunity to reach out to specific entities in need. In particular, many hospitals are overwhelmed right now, and quite a few are also destroyed, and they need their own water infrastructure. The example you referred to of what we did a year ago before the current situation was related to a school, which is predominantly for orphans, where they needed a water treatment, and we supported them in buying the equipment for them on the local market. We did not send it from here, but we funded it, and we did all the analysis to make sure they were getting something that was fit for purpose for what they needed.
That I think is the absolute key bit. It's about you provided that crucial industry expertise that stopped the people on the ground being screwed over by someone selling them something that's inappropriate. And it's about that knowledge. It's not about shipping bits of stainless steel necessarily from Dubai into Lebanon. It's about helping the local end users have informed decisions that get the right answers.
Definitely, definitely, and I think that's what is needed, because people will try to sell them anything, and people in crisis might not know what they need and what they don't need. So that's where the value added is, and I'm reaching out as you are to specific organizations to try to see what are the specific opportunities where we can, rather than be too wide, but we can go directly to the required end users to see how we can support them.
Brilliant. Well, Rami, thank you for your time. Thank you for everything you're doing. We will definitely keep in contact and see how the situation goes, and all my love and prayers for your family and friends and relatives in Beirut. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you very much.